What if there was a hole with no end? Not just deep, not just strange, but something that defies everything we understand about reality. This is the story of Mel's Hole. In the hills near Ellensburg, Washington, on a remote stretch of land along Manistash Ridge, there was a hole. At first glance, it looked like an old well. But it wasn't. The man who owned the property, Mel Waters, treated it like a dumping pit. So did the neighbors. Trash, broken appliances, scrap metal, even dead animals, everything went into that hole. And yet, it never filled up. That's when things started to feel off. Even the air felt wrong. Curiosity turned into obsession. Mel needed to know how deep it really was. So he did what any fisherman would do. He grabbed a spool of fishing line. He tied a weight to the end and lowered it into the darkness. 4,500 feet. No bottom. He added more line. 10,000 feet. Still nothing. He kept going. Spool after spool, mile after mile. By the time he ran out, the line had reached over 80,000 feet. That's more than 15 miles down. And still no bottom. Then came the story that changed everything. One of Mel's neighbors claimed he had thrown his dead dog into the hole. Days later, he saw that same dog again. Alive. Wearing the same collar. But when he called it, the dog didn't respond. It didn't even recognize him. Mel believed the hole was influencing everything around it. Animals kept their distance, yet the plants nearby seemed to thrive unusually well. Mel noticed his dogs refused to go anywhere near it. Electronics didn't behave normally either. Whenever he brought a radio close to the hole, the signal would break into heavy static and then suddenly lock onto broadcasts that didn't seem to belong. One day, his radio picked up what sounded like vintage music from decades past. Curious, he tried switching stations and instead landed on a live baseball game. Later, he discovered the game had actually been played back in 1967, more than 30 years earlier. As if that wasn't strange enough, storms seemed to split and move around the area, and compasses would spin wildly without settling. Some people who got close even claimed they heard faint cries echoing from deep below, like something or someone was trapped far beneath the surface. By now, the stories were piling up, and Mel realized he couldn't figure this out alone. So in 1997, he did something bold. He called into the late-night radio show Art Bell. The show, Coast to Coast AM, had millions of listeners worldwide, people fascinated by the unexplained. Mel shared his story live on air, and suddenly, the mystery wasn't his anymore. A few days later, Art Bell reached out to Mel again for an update. Mel shared a strange report from a neighbor. He claimed to have seen a dark shape rising out of the hole and stretching up into the clouds, darker than anything he had ever witnessed. Mel himself hadn't seen it, but Art and several callers pointed out that this region of Washington had a long history of UFO sightings, unexplained disappearances, and other paranormal reports. Naturally, theories started pouring in. Some believed the hole sat on a ley line, a kind of energy pathway, possibly acting as a gateway to another dimension. Others suggested it could be a time portal, which might explain why objects thrown inside never seemed to reach a bottom. One caller even imagined that everything discarded into the hole might be piling up somewhere in an alternate reality. Another theory? A passage leading deep into a so-called hollow earth. Art began speaking with locals to gather more clues. One elderly neighbor recalled that, years ago, the hole had been surrounded by stone pillars, though oddly, there were no horizontal beams connecting them, like unfinished structures missing their lintels. As the conversation continued, someone from the audience warned Mel that going public with this story might not be a good idea, especially if the government was listening. The show wrapped up with Mel agreeing to return soon with more information. But when the time came, he never called back, and no one could reach him. When Mel returned to his property, he was blocked. Armed military personnel had taken over the area. Helicopters were flying overhead. Heavy equipment had been moved in. The official explanation? A plane crash investigation. But there was no wreckage, no smoke, no evidence. When Mel pushed for answers, he was warned, told it would be easy to find something illegal on his land if he didn't walk away. And just like that, the hole was no longer his. But the story didn't end there. Mel claimed he was later offered a deal. Money in exchange for silence. Leave the country. Never come back. Never speak about it again. He accepted and disappeared. Years later, he resurfaced briefly with even stranger claims. Another hole, this one in Nevada. Similar size, but different. This second hole was lined with metal, warm to the touch. Objects dropped into it made no sound, not even impact. During one experiment, they lowered ice into the hole. When it came back up, it hadn't melted. It hadn't stayed frozen either. It had transformed into something else entirely. Dry, solid, almost like stone, and under heat. It didn't melt. It burned. Whatever was happening inside that hole didn't follow the rules of physics. Eventually, Mel vanished for good. No more calls. No more updates. Just silence. So what was Mel's hole? A hoax? A psychological experiment? A classified military site? Or something far more unsettling? Because here's the truth. No confirmed evidence of the hole has ever been found. No official records. No verified location. And yet, the story refuses to die. Even today, people search for it, debate it, try to explain it. But maybe the real mystery isn't whether the hole exists. Maybe it's why stories like this keep surfacing. Because deep down, we all wonder the same thing. What if there really are places on this planet that aren't meant to be understood? Stay curious. Thanks for watching. Peace.